The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Having a bit of technical difficulties tonight. I think Rotten Tomatoes is running a script that was slowing down my computer.
That can happen.
Yep, hopefully it fixes itself later, or we're going to have to vamp when we get there. But take two. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And by the power of podcasts, he's Robert Winfrey.
I'm almost positive my identity does not hinge on the power of podcasting. How you doing, Mark?
By the power of podcast, Robert Winfrey has the power.
No, we do not nearly have enough of an audience for that claim to hold up to scrutiny.
I'm doing all right. I'm nursing a cold. I got allergy cold that started last week that I'm still trying to get over. But well, it's just me and you tonight. So
it is.
Took 2 weeks off. We did Mandalorian and Grogu and kicked the ever-loving hell out of Star Wars. Made poor Alexis cry. Then we did the boys. Well, then we kicked the ever-loving hell out of the boys and made Alexis cry.
If we wanted to make Alexis cry on our review of the boys, we should have done a quick coda where we checked the weekend box office and saw the 70% drop from The Mandalorian and Grogu from week 1 to week 2.
We'll talk about that in about an hour or so.
We'll get to its other 70% drop.
What are we talking about tonight, Robert?
Well, if the intro wasn't enough to cue you in, tonight we are tackling another toy product, which doesn't actually narrow this down as much as you might think these days. This is Masters of the Universe.
Born to be Kings. Yes, sir. Based on Mattel's iconic franchise. This 2026 fantasy adventure marks the long-awaited return of He-Man to the big screen nearly 40 years after the cult classic 1987 film. Directed by Travis Knight and starring Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam / He-Man, the film follows Adam's journey back to the future of Eternia, where he must embrace his destiny, wield the power sword, and defend his world from the sinister Skeletor, played by a mumbling Jared Leto. Featuring a
How is it that Jared Leto still is the worst thing?
Yeah, I have words about this. Featuring a cast that includes Camila Mendes, Allison Brie sexing it up, Marina Baccarin collecting a paycheck, Kristen Wiig doing voice work, and Idris Elba wishing he were back in Baltimore. The film blends sword and sorcery action, science fiction spectacle, and the classic 1980s nostalgia. After a troubled development process, that bounced between studios for over a decade, 10 years too late, Masters of the Universe finally arrived.
Almost like they were desperately trying to capitalize on the Barbie sort of phenomenon, when Barbie itself was still getting kicked around studios like, we don't know what we're doing with this. Hey, is Amy Schumer still a thing?
Did Amazon and MGM successfully bring Eternia to life, or should this franchise have remained in Castle Grayskull? All right. So I had ChatGPT kind of list out all the He-Man shows because I was trying to see where, like, I'm a huge fan. I love this franchise. I'm not one of the as it's been called in other podcasts, man babies who if you tinker with this thing too much, I go into apoplexy. I don't care that much, but I was a child when this was on and I enjoyed it. So He-Man and Masters of the Universe from Filmation ran 2 seasons, 130 episodes from 83 to about 85, which puts me at between 7 and 9, which is about right.
So for the record, this probably ends a little bit before I'm born.
Yeah, I'm getting there. The New Adventures of He-Man was 89 to 90. I did not watch that and continued airing into 91 in some markets. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the 2002 to 2004 reboot. I guarantee you I didn't watch that.
Apparently, though, that one was somewhat well received. It didn't last very long, but it was actually like it's well regarded.
The Masters of the Universe Revelation show I reviewed with Andrew and Evan.
Reviewed. Put that in air quotes. That absolute war crime. Not your podcast. Like the god awful thing Kevin Smith vomited out into the world.
That might have gone better had it not been called He-Man, and if it had been called Teela in the Masters of the Universe, different story. No one would have.
No, it's still terrible, but at least it's not lying to you as much about it.
Yeah, well, I think that was. I don't want to litigate that show. I did 2 reviews on it with Andrew and Evan, and they were much kinder to it than I was. But I was very much. Of
course, they were. One of them's a Kevin Smith file, which is a disturbing thing. And
don't you say bad things about Evan. Evan walks with the Jesus. But I will say this, just so we can move this on, because I don't want to do a 2-hour podcast on the movie about the cartoon that only people remember now because we're talking about He-Man. They were much kinder to it than I was, but I was very much stuck on don't tell me this is a He-Man show and make it all about Teela. Moving on.
It didn't help that, like, if you'll all remember how that went, before the show comes out, it gets leaked, it gets rumored. Somebody drops a rumor on social media that, hey, in Kevin Smith's Abomination, He-Man dies in the first episode, and the whole thing's about Teela. Now, this was reported as rumor mongering, which is fine. Everyone was honest about it. Like, hey, these are rumors, but these are rumors. Kevin Smith and his sycophants, who are rivaled only by the Snyder Bros in their utter, like, inability to, like, think critically about anything or be tolerable in polite society, then jumped all over this report, doxed the people who said it, and levied death threats at them. Kevin Smith denied it up and down, only for Netflix to have the show come out, and everyone realized that, no, you lying sacks of shit have been just making everyone's life miserable for months because you got scooped. You absolute degenerates.
You feel better now?
No.
Good. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Netflix CGI reboot. I think Jonas watched this. This lasted about a year, and I think he was telling me that he wished at the time that he watched it, which would have made him between 7 and 8, that he wished it had continued. He was enjoying it, but it just went away. And then I think
that, for the record, I think that's another one that, like, never found an audience, and because it's Netflix,
mm-hmm.
if you don't have a giant first season that they can then drag out for 8 more years, well, you produce 2 seasons of television, they're not really interested. But that one I also do think was, like, at least somewhat well regarded when it came out.
And then I guess this is a sequel to the Kevin Smith thing, Masters of the Universe Revolution. That's 2024. I honestly know nothing about
I don't know what that one is, because Revelation had 2 seasons.
It did. And I could have sworn it can, and it doesn't matter. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. And this is one of your clinging to things to fight about. So if you include all the Masters of the Universe TV shows, including She-Ra, the order is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe 83 to 85, She-Ra and the Princess of Power, which I did watch this because I had girl cousins. I was not afraid of things with girls in it. So I watched She-Ra, Princess of Power. It was fine. That was 85 to 87. New Adventures of He-Man, He-Man and the Masters. She-Ra and the Princess of Powers, 2018 to 2020. Alexis and I reviewed that. I watched that with my daughter. A grand time was had. We served punch. Then we have Revelation, um, the CGA reboot, and Revolution. So that's all the He-Man. Now that I've laid all of that out, can you take a Xanax and talk to me about your relationship to the He-Man property, shows you watch, shows you didn't watch, and maybe some insight, if you can spare it, as to why this particular property never really grabbed you?
Well, again, I'm born about the time the original run ends.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the New Adventures, which is a little bit corny, and I'm still like, I'm kind of the right age for it, but the New Adventures stuff also leans a little bit heavier into the prior aesthetic. And by that point in the, sort of like kids Saturday morning cartoon ecosystem, I think there were better options. At least there were certainly things that hit me more.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never really a He-Man guy. Like I read a few of the like books, that were made for kids because
Yeah.
of course I did. Because you're a kid, like they're in the doctor's office when you're there. Like you read a few of them. So I did that, and I had seen a couple of episodes, but I'm really like just a little bit the wrong generation for He-Man to have hit.
What's an interesting thing is I'm gonna frame this from my perspective, and maybe that'll help a little bit, because I think it's important to know when this is all happening. So if this is 83 to 85, what's also happening around that time? We're running up to WrestleMania, for one thing, and we have the death of the territories and the rise of the WWF. What is the WWF? For the other than big fatties, it's also really muscular guys in tight shorts. What's also happening around this time? 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian movies. It's also happening around this time. Bodybuilding is becoming popular. Who's also popular around this time? Arnold Schwarzenegger. So if you're me and you're 40 years old when 1980 hits, and your predominant child development years are happening at the same time as Power and Paint and bodybuilding and pro wrestling and barbarians, and there's this toy that you can buy. Again, Star Wars is also happening around this time. Star Trek is still happening around this time, but it's an amazing, like, He-Man is this amazing confluence of a lot of things that were all happening at once. And if you're in,
He-Man is kind of, if I could speak to the culture a little bit as an outside
please.
observer,
Mm-hmm.
He-Man is the ultimate rejection of the 60s and 70s ethos.
Yeah.
Like we have gone from like super naive 60s and like super naive and like quasi optimistic to the depression and grittiness of the 70s,
cultural
and then
malaise of the 70s.
Yeah, the malaise and all that. And then right at the tail end of the 70s, the start of the 80s, you get a little bit of optimism with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then you get, okay, but what if optimism didn't look like, Mark Hamill, a 5'4", vanilla midget, and instead looked like
Conan the Barbarian.
it looked like, it looked like Pumping Iron characters.
Well, you got to remember, if you go all the way back through the history of humanity, this stuff keeps popping up. I mean, a lot of Roman and Greek culture was, if you look at the sculptures and stuff, was muscular guys.
Yeah.
Wrestling is as old as, time itself. Physical competition. I mean, these are all things ingrained in human behavior and appreciation. So, I don't know if you watched the Toys That Made Us documentary that talked about He-Man.
I did watch those. I did watch that series.
They talked a lot about how, like, Muscle and Fitness, not just the magazine, but just the concept, really, like, a lot of that got like poured into the He-Man thing. I can't remember all the details about it, but there was a lot of stuff that led to He-Man. So with this rise, so the other thing that's happening around this time also is the law gets repealed that says you can't sell something along the lines of you can't sell directly to kids anymore. At which point, everything that I watched as a kid was a 30-minute toy commercial.
They changed some of the wording so that you could make shows that were advertisements as long as they were actually shows.
Right. So I grew up in the rise of that, where there was an explosion. And that explosion included, in no particular order, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats, Voltron,
My Little
Silverhawks.
Pony.
Let's leave the girls out of this.
No. Look, we're talking about the culture here. Like, let's not pretend that didn't exist and wasn't there to
sure.
sell the toys.
Well, sure. And then you get Barbie, My Little Pony,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So my
Cabbage
point is,
Patch Kids, Care Bears.
I wasn't like a snob kid. I liked what everybody else liked. We all liked this stuff. And some of us who were more army oriented liked more G.I. Joe. Some of us who liked robots gravitated towards Transformers. I know I did. And, and those of us who also liked big, burly, muscly men, for whatever that says about us, and fantasy. Yeah. We gravitated towards He-Man. I was a huge fan of He-Man as a kid. I loved watching the cartoon. I had a whole bunch of the toys, and some of my friends had like every single toy. So when I watched it as a kid, I watched it with great joy. The thing about He-Man, and we can talk about this and then jump into the plot synopsis, is that the custodians of this IP have done a poor job of touching the beach ball. If you think of like a cultural IP as a beach ball, and the more touches it keeps it in the air, people know about it. There's a lot of play here. People are involved. More people are engaged. If you stop touching the beach ball, you hit it too hard, it goes away. You can't even like I just did with my water. You can't even find the fucking thing anymore. If you don't touch it at all, it falls to the floor and it dies. So it's light touches. You don't have to kill the thing. You don't have to shove it down everyone's face, but light touches on the product and it stays alive forever. Compare, and I will shut up so you can respond to this and pick up my water. Compare the custodians of He-Man and how poorly they've touched the ball with how amazing the same custodians handled Barbie.
Well, there's a minor counterpoint to that, if you don't mind me throwing it out there.
What, you'd argue with me? This wouldn't be a show if you didn't.
The custodians of Barbie also dropped the ball at a very specific point in time. They were very much stuck in the past at the turn of like the 90s. And their sales were struggling, and they were just like, well, if we just keep doing what we're doing, we're going to be fine. It's Barbie. There's nothing to compete with Barbie. A couple of years later, the Bratz dolls hit. And
objection. Barbie is still, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with the point you're driving at, but you're being very picayune and aiming at the small argument. The bigger argument is by the time the Barbie movie hit in 2022, was it 2022 or 2023?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. What part of my life was falling apart? It was 2023. That's how I count time now.
Bless you.
But Barbie was still such a cultural icon and still appreciated, and the custodians had, despite wrong turns and drop balls, was still so much in the cultural zeitgeist. That movie made over $1 billion. I don't want to debate the merits of the movie or why it made $1 billion. We'll be here all fucking night. But I want to draw just a distinct comparison between that and we're going to talk about it with the money, but you can't compare when, even though there's been some touches of the ball with He-Man, there's been so much time in between and so little attention paid to this property outside of my cohort who still like the things we liked as kids. And then this movie, and then at the time of this recording, the movie is, the box office is failing. It's just such a wide comparison. So my point is that I used to think that He-Man, I'm going to let you have the last word here after I say this. I used to think that He-Man just didn't have cultural relevance after a certain period of time. Wrestlers got smaller. The world got angrier and darker. Culture changed in so many ways that, just to make a pro wrestling parallel, as much as Steve Austin's a big burly guy, he ain't as big as Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, or Andre the Giant. And
everyone started looking at He-Man and seeing steroids.
Yeah, exactly. So I used to think that part of the reason why a He-Man movie like this could never work was because the world just wouldn't accept it. Except that everything that makes He-Man is still popular today. It's popular in different places and in different ways. But I think the specific property, unlike Barbie and some other ones, just was not what they did a poor job of keeping it in the zeitgeist, and there was too much time in between things and too many failures. I'll let you have the last word on this, then we'll jump into the plot synopsis.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think as far as like why He-Man has struggled. One is if we're gonna do the one-to-one comparison to Barbie, and we're just gonna like kind of track the two IPs. One of the primary drivers of Barbie's longevity is a lack of competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that there's nothing else for little girls. There's plenty of stuff for little girls out there, but nothing has the like really punchy name necessarily. Again, like you did get a couple of challenges when Barbie dropped the ball, but Barbie's also such a money mill over at Mattel that like as soon as that ball is dropped, somebody's head rolls and we pick it up and we get back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So Barbie's cultural icon status never really gets challenged because it's easy to sell Barbie to little girls.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be dismissive, but marketing wise, culture wise, behavioral patterns wise, there's a lot of things going into this.
If I may just help you a little bit with this simple sentence, Barbie could be anything, and you could sell it to any girl. The varying differences in girl behavior and girl types, there was a Barbie for every one of them.
Yes.
Especially as this thing got older and they started doing like crippled Barbie and stuff.
Yeah. So Barbie was very modular in that respect, and the market that Barbie is attached to, I'm not going to say hasn't changed at all since Barbie debuted, but has changed shockingly little, all things considered. Then there's the market for boys. For a variety of reasons, this is a much more volatile toy space to be in. Because boys are weird. And it's very easy for it's just easier for things to hit the boy market wrong.
Let me go in a slightly different direction than this. Let's take 3 different kinds of the same thing. G.I. Joe, Thundercats, and He-Man. Like, you're talking about muscular, male characters, except one's sci-fi bodybuilders, one's anthropomorphic cats, and the other one is human soldiers. On the other hand, there's just Barbie.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's kind of the point I'm driving at. Is Barbie got to be a monolith and cultural shorthand very quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas marketing to boys became dicier because the whole thing, you can't do grim. I got to be careful how I phrase this. You can do 8 different versions of Barbie, and everyone kind of goes along with it. You can't do 8 different versions of He-Man in the same way.
Right.
You can't do, this is He-Man, this is Mecha He-Man, this is He-Man on Earth, this is Grimdark He-Man. Like, you can't do that the same way you can with Barbie. And there's a lot of reasons for it. But you just can't. And consequently, a lot of stuff aimed at boys becomes a lot more cyclical. You have a shorter shelf life.
Yeah.
And if you make it like 5 years, you're doing great. And then you might actually achieve a degree of staying power. But usually that actually comes through ancillary or secondary opportunities. I mean, Transformers, by way of example, like it kept the core identity, but after a certain point, it was like, okay, we can't keep doing this. What do we do? Well, we keep the core motif of something transforms into something else. Because that's really the essence of this. I don't necessarily need Optimus Prime as robot turns into semi-truck. It's very easy instead to go with, okay, so what if we do Transformers but animals? Or Transformers but...
Well, there was already some of that in the original show. There was already some of that in the original show. So when they started to do more of that, it wasn't a complete shock to the system. And I'm not, this isn't a lore thing, But if you look at if I'm just a toy manufacturer, here's cars, here's planes. The planes are the bad guys, the cars are the good guys. Okay, a season later, let's introduce dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's also introduce construction vehicles, but they're the bad guys. That's the big twist. Now let's bring in more planes, but they're the good guys. Here's another twist. Now here's tanks. Here's a city. Here's a missile battery. These are all actual Transformer toys.
Here's a microscope. Here's a whole planet.
Yeah, exactly. And then just to kind of further this along, now we're gonna wipe the slate clean. Here's a movie where we do that narratively and traumatize a bunch of boys.
We were stronger for it.
Yes, it made us men. He-Man doesn't get any of that. He-Man got a 2 to 3 year run. They stopped doing it. I don't really understand. I didn't look into the history as to why the cartoon ended the way that it did, because, like I said, it's not like like G.I. Joe went on forever. Transformers went on forever. Thundercats did not. Thundercats also only ran for a few years, and then they were done.
Well, part of that is He-Man didn't quite get the secondary. Look, Scooby-Doo didn't last all that long as an original run, right?
I just found this out today. Neither did the Jetsons.
No, the Jetsons like one season.
Yeah.
But Hanna-Barbera had a lot of airtime to fill. And Ted Turner, God bless him, loved these things. So on his network, he created a cable network and said, play the old cartoons. So Cartoon Network featured endless reruns of Scooby-Doo. And if you remixed it just enough, you only watched episodes every so often.
So to get this back to the original point,
He-Man didn't get that. Like
what He-Man did was made weirder characters.
Also true.
So like V1, here's a guy with a big fist, here's a guy with a ram on his head, here's a guy his face spins around, here's a guy whose neck goes long, and on the bad guy side, here's a guy called Stinkor, here's a skunk, here's a beast, here's a this, here's a that. And then like 2 or 3 iterations of He-Man later, they look like Cthulhian fucking, Lovecraftian monsters. But He-Man by himself never really changed. There was only one other version of He-Man that I can recall, and that was when he was wearing, it was the like progressively destructed He-Man, where he was wearing a chest plate that if you hit it, there was a crack, and then if you hit it again, it was a bigger crack, and then you reset the thing. Like, there's no other version of He-Man to get to the end of this.
Yeah, so it didn't quite have, again, the staying power. It wound up having a lot more competition. I mean, let's be honest. To a certain demographic, if you have a choice between He-Man and Transformers, if you're buying toys, there's more mileage out of Transformers.
Sure.
And right. He-Man, if we're talking like, again, why did the cartoon suffer and why did the toy line suffer? He-Man did what all boy-oriented toy lines do this. Like, this is the weirdest thing to me, but it always goes this way. You have something for the men. And everyone's like, hey, we've got the men. This is great. And no one goes, this is great. Let's keep doing this forever. They then go, but what if we got the women? So we change the thing that the men like to try and get the women. The men no longer like it. Most of the women go, yeah, no thanks. Now you have nothing. And this happens over and over and over again, and people still do the surprised Pikachu face every time. But
I am not getting into a debate about She-Ra with you. Please do.
I'm not here to debate She-Ra. I'm saying, like, okay. Look, this is, if you want to understand, like, again, part of, like, She-Ra is like the NWO Wolfpack. You need another wrestling comparison. Like, okay,
hang on, very simply put, She-Ra, despite everything that you're saying, and in some cases is true, has a fucking rabid fan base.
I'm aware that it does. Look, She-Ra attracted a fan base.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't big enough to offset the losses that they suffered.
Right.
And that's the gamble you took.
I would say this, this movie's not doing well. If it ends up doing better, kind of like Elemental on word of mouth, I want to save some of this for the money, and I really want to get into the plot synopsis where I'm cutting you off, but I want to put this out there. The way they did this movie, in the sense of what they included and didn't include, was perfect. The after credit scene with She-Ra had my daughter screaming in the movie theaters like it was the Beatles. Let me tell you how, because Amazon has money to burn, and it doesn't really, and kind of like Red One, it doesn't really matter how well this does. If people liked it, I'm going to talk more about this when we get to the money. If people liked it, it's worth doing. It's for them, I would imagine. It's worth doing a sequel, and because they're already teasing She-Ra, I guarantee you the next one makes money. Because He-Man and She-Ra together, after this one already built up a ton of goodwill, I guarantee you the next one, if they keep the budget, reasonable, does really, really well. The plot synopsis, please.
Yeah, this is the bog standard He-Man story. So Adam is the prince. He is small. He is weak. He is the Prince of Eternia. His dad is disappointed having a small weakling for a son and is like, guys, this world is not suited for you to behave like this. We need to fix this. And Idris Elba's like, yes, I can. This is going to take a little bit of time, but I think I can fix him. And his daughter, Tila, is like, oh, but he's such a sweet boy. Let me just whack him with a stick a few times. And then Skeletor attacks. So there's a big fight. The heroes lose. The royal family is captured. But Adam takes the Sword of Power, which is what Skeletor is after. And he is sent by the sorceress through a portal to Earth, because that's where his mom's from, apparently. And he is told, do not lose the sword. It's your way home. And in the portal, he immediately loses the sword. Because,
in defense of the small child, there's a lot of gravity pulling on him.
The aforementioned comment about him being small and weak.
Yes, he couldn't hold on to the thing, too much energy going on.
He lands in the one body of water in Oklahoma City, which is a miracle.
He lands in the creek.
Which is a miracle, by the way.
Yeah, really. What luck.
We flash forward. He's now a depressed HR worker, because everyone who does HR is either depressed or a sociopathic narcissist.
Or a woman.
But you repeat me.
Yes, sir.
He's doing that. He's looking for the sword. He finally gets a hint from somebody at the local comic book store about, it's over here, come get it. So he shows up and he steals the sword, and people record him because Panopticon. He tries to use the words to summon the power, but he gets the words wrong, and much like Ash Williams, is now doomed to wander the multiverse fighting the Deadites for speaking the wrong words over the Necronomicon. Sorry, wrong movie. But raising the sword somehow sends out a signal that people get, so the Beast Man shows up and starts wrecking things, and then Tila shows up and rescues Adam because he's a goober. She takes him back to Eternia, which is no longer pretty because Skeletor's had, 20 years or so to mess with it. And Skeletor's all mopey and sad because, well, he has achieved a great deal. He has dominance over multiple planets. He has the staff. He has an evil sorceress to do his bidding. He feels it could all be taken away from him. And he needs the power to truly become a god. So that's what he needs. And the sword's back. And he needs the sword because the sword is the vessel for the power. So they show up and they go to talk with the rebel forces. And the rebel forces aren't very happy to see them. And eventually, during their escape, Adam transforms with the power of the sword. He fights some people on a bridge. Yanks a guy's arm off, shoots a bunch of other people. Kind of great. We find Idris Elba again, who's now a drunk because he failed in his duty. And this is the only arc we can think of for the old mentor, is you turn into an old drunk. Shocked he didn't, piss off to another city and drink blue titty milk. And I actually kind of like The Last Jedi. But this is the only thing we can do. So there's a big chase with the planes. And ultimately, Skeletor appears in the Northern Lights for a means of communicating with the planet, which is actually a very cool means of communication. He says, I will kill your parents who are still alive and in my dungeons, lo, these many decades later.
And don't look a lick different. That mom had not aged at all.
The only difference in James Purfoy is his hair's a little bit longer and his beard is unkempt.
Yeah.
And if you bring to me the sword of power at Snake Mountain, we'll be good. And Adam goes, well, I'm going to go rescue my parents then. And the other two go, this is a trap. And he goes, I have the power of a god. I will win the fight. And they go, well, this is probably a bad idea, but we're with you anyway. Why not? So they go, and there's a fight. And Skeletor and the evil sorceress are able to use He-Man's power to accidentally kill James Purfoy, his father. So he tearfully reconciles with his dad before his dad dies, and Skeletor whacks him in the back of the head. He loses his transformation power. His shirt comes back. His shirt and pants come back, though, because magic. He has been dragged to be with the others because nothing says
Excuse
competent.
me, that was canonical to the show.
I'm just making a joke, man.
When Adam turns back into when He-Man turns into Adam, he gets the pink shirt and blue tights. That's in the show. Please continue.
Because nothing says competent villainy like, let's put all the captured heroes together in one place. This will clearly not go badly for us. But now Skeletor has the sword, but the sword doesn't work for him. And the evil sorceress is like, well, if we take it back to where it was before, there's magic I can do. Please don't kill me. And he goes, well, this better work or I'm going to kill you. So they go to start that. Meanwhile, Adam rallies the troops with the power of HR PowerPoint presentations. They stage a breakout. There's a big fight. They go for their big final battle. We get to the final battle, and Skeletor breaks the sword of power, which freaks everyone out. Then he goes, I broke it. I'm going to stab you with it now, because you're still just a weak little girly man. So he stabs him. And as Adam lays dying, overwhelmed by the force of his enemy, he has a vision of Anthony Hopkins as Odin, who tells him, you're not Thor, god of hammers. No, sorry, wrong movie. He has a vision of the sorceress who says, the sword was never the receptacle for the power. You were. You have the power, Adam. And he wakes back up and he goes, I have the power. And the sword reforms itself like Mjolnir from the broken shards. And then he fights and he beats Skeletor after giving him an opportunity to, empathize. And Evelyn runs off and he kills Skeletor, but leaves his skull alone because that couldn't possibly be key to the survival of a character named Skeletor. Now could it? But the heroes win. A few months later, they've rebuilt most of Eternia. We all gather around for a big laugh. Adam reveals the names he has for everybody because he was a 10-year-old kid and didn't bother to learn anyone's name, so it was just whatever he attached to them. Everyone's wearing their comic book costumes. And then he goes off being He-Man still, and then we get a couple of post-credit scenes. The one character we have missed thus far is Oikos, the Greek yogurt floating around. Sorry, Orcos.
Orko.
I genuinely forgot his name. I'm sorry about that. Wasn't
Orko.
Orko. He shows up and says the message of the episode this time around was, your muscles aren't everything, and if you have a skull for a face, you might be the bad guy. Thanks, Orko. Then we get another mid-credit scene where we tease She-Ra because this is the movie they actually wanted to make. And then another end credit scene where Evelyn shows up and gets the skull of Skeletor and goes, you have to destroy the phylactery to kill a lich, you morons. How are you this dumb? And that's it. That's the movie.
No surprise to anyone who knows me. I absolutely love this movie. This is probably going to end up being on my top 10 for the year. This is going to be...
You will be the one we mock about your top 10 this year instead of Alexis.
Every year I have a 10 spot that is reserved for the most enjoyed.
Fair enough.
And this is it. I can't imagine anything else I see this year is going to have the ear-to-ear smile for the ungodly amount of time this movie took.
Yeah.
That's one of my complaints.
This is like 2 hours and 20 minutes, right around there.
Yeah, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and 20 minutes of this movie needed to go. I'll get there in a moment. But
at least.
We'll say 2 hours of the 2 hours and 20 minutes, ear-to-ear smile. Just sorry, I'm going to put this comment on here. Oh my God, can we be critical of this movie if we can't say the magician's companion? Leave my friend Robert Winfrey alone.
Look, he shows up on screen for 30 seconds and his name is never said. I had to look it up.
Robert is forgiven for. I'm gonna give you more grace than you and the rest of you fucking assholes ever give me. It's not your thing. I don't expect you to remember all the little details. But the guy's name is Orko.
Okay.
Anyway, not that it fucking matters. I love
I
this
know, like
movie.
he's there as fan service.
Yeah, I'm aware. Ear to ear smile, tears of joy. I laughed at the stupid jokes. I was having a ball with this. If I can be critical for a moment, because I don't want to do I don't want to do the thing I did with the Batman, and you go off and make a fucking sandwich. So
I would
that's all.
not leave you while I make a sandwich because you don't. If there was someone else here and you two just wanted to like do that, I would go make a sandwich and listen to you. But
I said what I needed to say. I didn't feel the need to gush about this movie. I loved it. It's the movie I've most enjoyed this year so far, and I can't imagine enjoying a movie more than this. I think from a pure enjoyment level, there wasn't anything I didn't like about the movie. I'm going to kind of separate this into the dumb I like stuff and the smart movie review craft person that I have to be. So, things I liked. The plot was such as it was as simple and familiar enough that it needed to be, which I think it worked in the movie's favor. I thought the costumes all worked. I really give credit where credit's due. I think the people who did the set design and costumes were as loving and as competent as they could be making this crazy world what it was. I actually think the guy in the He-Man costume, which no one's been able to do it yet, is make that work. I mean, they did it. The He-Man body type doesn't and ability to act might be in short order and may not exist at all. So that's as good as it's going to get, and I accepted that, and it looked just fine. It didn't look out of place. Allison Brie was my favorite character as Eva Lynn was my favorite character in this entire movie.
She does the least amount of any. She's the least memorable. I'm a little surprised by that one, actually,
because she is because every time she's on screen, she is having a ball, and she played that character really, really well. What I wanted to say about this is both a I liked and a craft thing, is on the pendulum too far this way, and you're leaning too far into the silliness that it almost becomes satire, maybe even like critical of the property because you're making too much fun of it. Lean too far this way, and it's too serious. It's a fucking kid show that you adapted into a big summer blockbuster. This isn't Krull, This isn't
none of this is high art. Like
I get a better example this isn't Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
They found that place in the middle that they leaned into the self-silliness of this whole thing, but where it needed to be taken seriously, it was. And I think the best example of that, everyone's going to say Skeletor. Hang on. The best example of that, I think, is Alison Brie. Because Alison Brie does what she needs to do as a character, but it also looks like she's just having, like, the time of her life being this silly character. And it's like, well, if this is what I'm going to be, I'm going to lean into it. And I think it really, really worked. Also, she looked great in the outfit. I'm going to split a hair here. Jared Leto's performance is good. Jared Leto's elocution and the voice work and the sound design sucked. I could not understand half of what he said. So I don't know who's in the bodysuit, if that's Jared Leto or not, but what they wrote for Jared Leto and elocution aside, the way he delivered it and the portrayal of this character, I thought worked just fine. I kind of wish they had done the high-pitched Skeletor voice, but I'm not going to cry about it. I will say this, like I said,
that would have been so grating over the 2.5 hours.
One of the things my kids love this too. It's funny. I walked out like, tears in my eyes. My son's just like, it was okay. And we had like a reverse of me walking out of the back rooms going, I don't understand children today. And my son, had the same exact response to him, which I knew was going to happen. His response to He-Man was, I don't understand what you like about this. But it's fun, I've taught him more or less successfully to accept that we all don't like the same stuff. My daughter, however, as soon as she saw She-Ra, whatever she thought of the movie, she was like, "This is amazing." In any case, the one thing we all agreed on and kind of talked about on the way home was it's been a while since we've seen a Disney villain in a movie.
Yeah.
And short of a song, this interpretation of Skeletor was the Disney villain who loves being evil.
Yeah.
And it was great, and it worked, and it was what the movie
He even
needed.
says as much at the end, like, I'm just a villain, kid. I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, well, I like the idea that it's a deconstruction of a deconstruction because for the last 100 years, it feels like every movie is Cruella or Maleficent.
Boy, are they.
shorthand. I'm using shorthand. The rest of you plebeians, noobs, and marks can figure out what I mean by that, but you know what I'm talking about.
Of course. I can read your mind, Mark. It's good.
So we've had so many Maleficents and Cruellas for so long now that when you get a villain that's just it's like your old song from what was it, Cabaret
The Voltaire
Voltaire
song. It's so easy. It's so easy being evil.
Yeah. It's perfect, and that's what he was doing. I actually thought about Cabaret Voltaire the entire time I was watching him. Anyway, that's kind of the thing it's one of the only things I really didn't like about the movie was how mushed mouth Jared Leto was. And I don't know if it's just him because I don't know how they captured his sound and how they projected it. So there are times where he's doing stuff and I'm only getting like every 2 or 3 words and then I'm losing stuff. And I'm like, that's not good sound design. Like that needed another pass. It was the only time I noticed it though. I thought the girl who played Tila was good. I thought they gave her just enough to make her competent and interesting. And then they gave the rest to the guy playing He-Man, and he got to do a lot of fun, good hero stuff. All like his action fight scenes are not in any way stylized or interesting, but if you compare that to like somebody compared it to, I think it was the Critical Drinker it's the Critical Drinker. No, it was the Red Letter Media guys who compared it to like the Mandalorian and Grogu, where building up to him kicking ass works much more effectively than starting with him kicking ass. Let me stop for a second so I can address Chris's fucking monologues. Yes, the entire movie was epic fan service. It felt like the post credits were trying to one up each other. It was like, oh, you thought we forgot this character? Wrong. There they are. Also her. From the sets to the humor, it was perfect tribute to the cartoon version of Master of the Universe with a slice of 87 film. Yeah, the Dolph Lundgren cameo was pitch perfect.
Pretty much.
The criticism of the humor is off base. This is exactly what was done in the cartoon. The Skeletor we see on screen was the same bumbler we see in the cartoon. Many folks think he was seriously sinister, but the character on screen is exactly what he is in the show. I agree with the Leto loss of audio on his voice was glaring in 2 spots. Yeah. A big criticism I have of this movie is the first 20 minutes.
They could have done that in half the time.
Takes too fucking long to get to Returnia. And I was like, when Tila and Beastman finally showed up, it was like drowning, and suddenly like just before you pass out from not having enough air, you break the surface and finally you take a deep breath. That's what that first 20 minutes of the movie was like. Like from the time he gets kicked off of Eternia to the time that Tila and Beastman show up is fucking horrendous. Like, it is everything I hate about modern comedy.
Oh, it is unfunny. It is all cringe based.
Yeah, it's like watching a network television show. It was like I've watched now enough of The Office because Erica has it on half the time. She's not watching Gilmore Girls, and I'm like, I don't like this. I hate that this is what people think comedy is now. It's everyone is like hyper verbal and doing therapy speak. Gag me with a spoon. So like the little gags.
I appreciate.
Go ahead.
The problem with that whole stretch, it's trying to be a humorous critique of that trope, but it spends so much time in there that it stops being critique and starts being a genuine part of the movie.
Yeah, I could see where the writers were very precious about it. Like, haha, we're making fun of this thing. Aren't we funny? Didn't kill enough babies.
Yeah.
There was too many of those jokes in there that ran too long. I don't care about the HR lady. That whole speech she gives him needed to be cut in half. We needed not necessarily this bad, but close to Batman v Superman editing in that whole 20 minutes. Cut that down by fucking half. The bit in the comic book store, just have
Also,
him
goes on so long.
just have him take the fucking sword and run out with it. You know, and like he runs into cops or something. He didn't need to be bumble fucking with the statue forever. Just take the sword and go. And then it doesn't, and then like maybe he's like in an alley and it doesn't work. Actually, what would have been funny is he's like, I have the power, and instead of lightning and thunder, you hear the taser. as the fucking as the fucking cops like tase him in an alley. And whatever. My point is, like, I'm not saying I'm dismissive of the critique. I love the critique. I'm annoyed by the inability to be succinct.
Yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield told Sam Kinison, you don't need 10 minutes. You can do it in 3. And Sam Kinison said, are you kidding me? It takes me 10 minutes just to start cooking. And he said, then you're a bad comic. Get it to 3 minutes. When guys came out and did Carson, they didn't have 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. They had 3 to 7 if you were lucky.
If you got 5, you were blessed.
Yeah. Get your shit in and then get going. And I don't know where or why or how our culture developed this hyperverbal insecurity and anxiety, but it needs to go. Bring back non-reactiveness, stoicism, succinctness. Get it fucking done in 10 words or less. Stop wasting my goddamn time. Robert?
Yeah, I think I agree with that completely. A bunch of the stuff on Eternia drags a bit. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of, well, what do we do with Idris Elba? He's an old drunk now.
Hang on. I didn't mention this, but you brought up Idris Elba. I loved his line about when the shit goes down, it's not the poets who step up, it's the warriors.
Yeah.
Talking is fine until there's nothing left and you have to defend yourself. And so between that and not every villain needs to have a tragic backstory, they can just like wallow in evilness. Which are the two big themes of this movie. They both work, they're both right. Now you can continue. I just want to make sure I said that thing about Idris Elba.
No, I completely agree with that. I just didn't like that the whole. I wish they'd come up with something better for him than, well, you failed in your duty as master at arms, so what do we do? Well, he's a drunk.
I'm starting to wonder how many people have drunk dads, that this is all we know.
I don't know. The humor in this movie comes in about 3 flavors. The physical pratfalls are mostly kind of successful. The sexual humor in this kids show was a bad call. I don't need a gag from the guy named Fisto to Ram Man about giving head. Just gonna say that. I don't need that. Or Skeletor weirdly talking about the big sword dangling between He-Man's thighs.
Creamy thighs.
You added creamy. He did not.
I got that from somewhere else too, but keep going.
Don't need it. Would have been better without it. Thanks a lot. And then the usual amount of bathos. Which is, boy, we sure are worried people won't be with the movie when we're doing this thing, so what if we say something sarcastic about it? They had a batting average of about 200.
The Marvel Studios Phase 3 writing style has wrecked Hollywood.
boy, has it, because it's all over this movie in the worst
yeah.
places. It's
Yep.
insecurity, is all it is. Like,
Yeah.
there's a couple of those gags that work.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. But you missed way more than you hit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the one that genuinely made me annoyed is after they break out of prison and you've got like Princes of the Universe playing while they're doing the slow hero walk through the hallway
Yeah.
with the smoke behind them. Like, you're doing that, you got to just commit to it.
Right.
Either the audience is with you by this point or they're not, and you doing the "oh, I can't breathe, it smells bad" bit is not going to help you.
Yeah, and the fact that that was, if you're gonna do that, then you have to bring in Stinkor.
Or
Or don't.
something like there has to be a
Yeah.
cue for it.
Right. Like there has to be a reason you did that. Otherwise, this is starting to seem like Mel Brooks.
Without any of the talent.
Yeah.
So that I really didn't care for.
I'm gonna. I'm listening to you go on about I didn't need the sexual humor, and there's like I know he likes sex stuff. He just doesn't talk about it because you've threatened me with it a few times, and I keep running away from you every time you do. Um, on the other hand, you're also very consistent about like what sex stuff I like is between me and my lord, and the sex stuff itself. I don't need to talk about it publicly, which I respect. We can be opposites where that's concerned, but what killed me was I started to think about you and that and your issues with it, and then I took another thought, took another moment, and I thought, unless you're my kids, 5 fisting jokes in a row, there's got to be a kid turn into his father and go, "The fuck does fisting mean?" And unless you've watched a lot of Kevin Smith movies, you don't know. It's one of those things like adults find this out as you get older. But there's no good way to explain it to a kid. Well, like, would a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, or two mommies? Like, I get that's the only reason why I agree with you, because I'm willing to take like a gay sex joke here or there, more
I mean, look,
more so than you might be able to.
sure,
But when you're putting in stuff into the movie that's supposed to be for a general audience, that you have to explain some beyond the norm sex things to, then I go, come on, guys. And while I didn't have the visceral reaction that you did. I did have a thought about like, boy, am I glad my kids are 12 and 15, and I've already corrupted them.
but I mean that's kind of the problem. Is like there's plenty of kids who aren't respectfully your kids,
Right? No, I get it. I'm fine with that.
and one joke I think we all could have got. I would have rolled my eyes, but that's also like you have to. It's such a weird name that's so closely tied to that you kind of have to say at least once.
Sure.
Otherwise, what are we doing here? But
Yeah.
once is all you need, really.
He just, I'm gonna fist you, and everyone just goes, ahem, and a tumbleweed blows through, and then let's move on. You got your one in. The kid's not going to question it, probably. Then we can move on. However, I'm going to fist you, and you're going to get a fist in. 5 minutes later in the movie, I'm going to fist everybody. 2 minutes later with Patricia Arquette, any of you fucking pigs move, and I'll fist every last one of you.
Yeah.
All right. Enough already.
That's kind of how that got.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't work. And again, if this were like an R-rated movie, I would be saying nothing. I'd say I don't care for this and leave it at that.
Sure.
It would not be a genuine like, boy, you're trying to make this for general audiences and are trying to introduce a bunch of, young boys to this IP. In theory, right? That's part of what we're trying to do here, revitalize the Masters of the Universe, sell some more toys, get some more interest going, and you're going to have parents having to look at the 8-year-old kid who's looking at you like, why did you laugh at that?
Why is Skeltra suddenly interested in his thighs?
And yes, and all kinds of stuff like it's so unnecessary to this movie.
I want to reiterate, I laughed at almost all that stuff. But this is the part of the conversation where people listening to it are annoyed with us, like, Why can't you just laugh at stuff and let it go? Because it's a movie review, and better writing doesn't do as much of this. See me 10 minutes ago shaming people for not killing their writing babies and not being able to get what they need done more succinctly. This is one of those where somewhere in the culture, somewhere in professional writing, beating a dead horse became the motif.
And we're all lesser for it.
Yeah.
There's most of the CGI is fine. There's a couple of spots in this that are just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Like Adam and Tila riding the battle cat across the bridge at the end is so bad. Like they're not bouncing as the cat is loping. It's so bad.
Yeah. I wanted to hear like King Arthur ride up with coconuts.
I would have believed it more. The bit at the end when he does the pose, like the pose is fine, but there's something so artificial and janky about how they move into it that I can't buy into it.
I feel like that's an actual piece of artwork from the show. That
It might have been, and God bless your Easter egg, it looks janky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that entire last bit where they're all standing around with their hands on their hips, leaning back at the waist, laughing, like this is a show reference. It took me a minute to understand that's what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the robot comes up and makes the world's worst joke, and everyone laughs again for like 5 minutes. And somewhere in my head, it went, they probably did this in the show, and that's what we're laughing at.
Yes.
But if you don't know that or you can't intuit that, everything about that final bit, that final wrap-up bit, is one of like an impossibly surreal experience. Like, what are we doing? Who had a stroke?
Yeah, there are moments of this movie where it borders on Wayans brothers humor,
which is maybe another reason it struggled to find an audience, because there's a Wayans brothers movie in theaters right now too.
What counter programming?
If you told me a Wayans brothers had a hand in this, like between the sexual humor, the awkwardness, and like the bordering on parody, I may have believed you.
Yeah.
There's a few things that the movie says thematically that I think are good. Like you, I'm happy to have just a villain again who's not a Trump analog. Because that's the only villain that's allowed to be villainous these days, apparently, is somebody you can point and go, see? The president's bad. And I lack critical thinking skills. So just having a villain who's like, no, I'm evil. I want more than I have because I don't have enough. Will you ever have enough? Probably not.
I think it's worth noting why that scene works better than you think it does, because I think the movie's point about talk first, talk until there's nothing left to talk about, talk until the talking fails. But in the event that the talking fails, you're gonna have to shoot some people. You're gonna have to fight. It's real. That's real. That's as real as it gets.
I vacillate on the bit of him like trying to talk with Skeletor at all, given there's other villains that I would have accepted him trying to talk to more than Skeletor at this point, because all the evidence.
I took 3 Everyone Loves the Bad Guys and I made a column out of it. I don't know if you've seen it on TikTok yet.
I saw it.
Okay. I mean, McManus tried with an entire prison full of guys. I'm not going to fault them for doing that here.
Yeah, but McManus was an idiot, and that was a giant part of his character.
This guy's a fucking genius. This idiot who wrestled with a statue and lost after an Iron Man match with it.
And he ain't Shawn Michaels, so I'm sure as hell wasn't 5 stars.
Fucking just
even in the Tokyo Dome,
just tripping and falling over his own dick is what he was doing. Like, I look.
I was more. Let me put it this way: I was happier with him doing that on the bridge with Trapjaw or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was happier with it there than I was with Skeletor.
Okay, I'm gonna let that be your personal thing. I think it works just fine. I think it was actually a brilliant part of the movie.
No,
I think it's something that had to happen given what we.
You're probably right. Like the messaging that they're trying to get across is, it's important to try to talk, but you have to be willing to. Violence is the last resort. But if that's a line you're never willing to cross, you're just a victim.
But the thing is that when Skeletor is just like, it's a, I love being evil, then He-Man does fight. It's not like he's no, stop. He's not doing that. He's like, all right, well, let's do this.
Yeah,
and then he kills him. Like, what more
Sort
do you
of.
want? Yeah.
My problem is just it's a minor gripe.
Okay.
And it just kind of goes as follows. Like, there's other times with other villains I would have been fine with this, like perfectly fine. And I'm with you that like the overall like theming and messaging I think is correct. But like 10 minutes ago, this guy got you to kill your father. Like,
not to be Alexis about this, but I had a thought about this movie and you as I was watching it. You have destroyed me, Robert Winfrey. But you've given me an unending amount of crap for Flash Gordon, and it was hilarious that they played Princess of the Universe, which I know is a Highlander reference, but still Queen. Because the entirety of this movie, I just kept thinking this is Flash Gordon. We're back.
It clearly is taking some inspiration from it. Yes.
My question to you is if you can do it in 10 words or less, like, because I knew you were going to hate this movie.
I don't hate this movie. Let me be clear about that. I don't hate it.
I knew you were going to hate this movie with the passion of 1,000 stars, and that you were going to wish
certainly don't hate it with the passion of 1,000 burning suns,
and that you wish death on everyone that worked on it. I understand that about you, Robert.
Only
Winfrey.
2 people.
However, you also don't like Flash Gordon. That's why I knew you were going to hate this movie, and I'm trying to figure out what about the space fantasy kind of heavy metal magazine motif that this is clearly drawing from, as did Flash Gordon, do you hate so much?
Trying to understand my dislike of Flash Gordon is a weird thing.
Do you hate heavy metal magazine?
I've never seen it.
Speaking of this.
Yeah. I'm aware of it, so like when people say like we're drawing on the heavy metal aesthetic, I get it. Like, you're not talking about the music. I know what we're doing here.
Okay.
So it's not that. It's just I think part of my problems with Flash Gordon are it looks so cheap and so stupid. I can't get over the guy standing on a jet ski in the middle of the air.
Flying blind on a rocket cycle?
And the world's worst, like, flying people with wings. Like, just the worst.
Okay. There was some costume design issues, sure.
So there's a bunch of stuff I just can't get over.
Okay.
As far as, like, that's Flash Gordon, the movie in particular. Let me be very clear about that.
Right.
To be clear, I didn't hate this movie at all. I'm actually very glad that its intended audience is enjoying it so much. Like, whether this is like my favorite thing ever, it's not. I don't think this is the worst movie of the year, even close. This is gonna go nowhere on my lists. Nowhere. It's fine. Like, I have craft issues with it. It's too long by half. Some of the tropes they play with are a little bit too lazy. I could do without some of the very specific writing decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But there's everything here, apart from the bathos, is presented earnestly. Like, there's not cynicism. There's not deconstruction. There's not irony poisoning going on here. And that's a breath of fresh air. And God bless them for it. Like, if you want to know, like, why this particular genre tends to miss me in a few different ways, I think because I've never seen a movie that does the, like, space fantasy heavy metal thing that isn't completely hamstrung by bad acting, bad effects, or too stuck in nostalgia bait.
Sometimes I'm 76, you're what, 85?
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder how much the 9-year difference between the two of us shapes our view of things, because when I was growing up, that heavy metal magazine aesthetic was everywhere. It is as much a part of my life as hair metal, pro wrestling, Rambo. And the thing of it is that like it's a part. Some of those things are a part of your life too. But I'm wondering if just the night. I'm 9 when you're born. I've had 9. I've had 5 years of this, and it's everywhere. It's a part of the air I breathe. It's a it's older cool kids who I admired and wanted to be around. This is what they lived in. You know, it was as much a part of the, and it was cool, and it was as much a part of the culture as anything else. And I think by the time you're 5,
But
it's
yeah,
gone.
by the time you get to 1990, 91, yeah, it is pretty gone.
Yeah, it's gone, and shortly thereafter, it's going to be ridiculed endlessly as like being archaic and embarrassing. And I have to imagine it is the only explanation I can have for why you and I are so far apart on this when it has elements of things we both like. I'll let you have the last word here, and then we'll move on.
I imagine that's true. I also just didn't have a lot of popular culture in my life growing up. I mean, you get some because you can't avoid all of it unless you're like Amish and not Amish. But it wasn't a big part of my. It wasn't like the biggest part of my childhood. I didn't spend enough time necessarily in the same places to like form deep relationships with other families. Like I was a kid, I had friends, but like I was never there long enough to be like, oh, so you're the cool older brother for my friend. What are you into? And maybe I'll like that too because I'm projecting forward. Wasn't really a thing for me for the most part. So there's a lot of that stuff that just kind of again missed me, and I think you're right. Like there's a weird. This goes to the back rooms, but this is also I think why He-Man is struggling because this will dovetail into the money. I think an enormous component of the back rooms and liminal space horror to begin with is the aesthetic of decaying 90s stuff, basically. And you and I have talked a little bit about this before, but it bears repeating. An enormous amount of our culture froze in the year like 2002. It's the weirdest thing, but the 50s had a distinct, the 1950s had a distinct style, had a distinct musical sound, had a distinct overall aesthetic. The 60s had a distinct music, aesthetic, style. The 70s had a distinct music, aesthetic, style. The 80s had a very distinct music, aesthetic, style. The 90s had a very distinct music, style, and aesthetic. The 2000s progress about 5 years past the 90s. Like you take some of the stuff that's quintessentially 90s and we flush that away. But we don't go anywhere from there. Like the teens have nothing discernible to separate them from the back end of the aughts. The 20s have nothing to discern us from the teens other than we break that by COVID. We don't break that by, hey, here's a new music.
I was gonna say there isn't a cultural break the way that you're talking about. There is a human events break.
Yeah, and there's something real damaging about that. And like it stops the young people, and say this is an old guy, but it stops the young people from having their own culture. Like I had my childhood. I'm okay holding parts of that dear and letting parts of that go, but
right. It was one of the reasons why when Jonas and I were talking about this, and he was like, I don't know the He-Man IP as well as you do. This doesn't mean anything to me. And I went, yeah, last week I said the same thing about the back rooms. And he went, right. And we were done. He could, at 12, and as much as I've media trained him, he understands this was part and parcel of my childhood, the way he has things and his sister has things that are part and parcel of their childhoods.
But that's kind of the problem is
fucking Christ. Wow. Keep going.
kind of the problem. I mean, I think the time I remember when I saw this for the first time, and it kind of broke my brain. Somebody said, if you watch The Office, there are only two things that tell you the time period it's set in: the cell phone models and the size of their monitors.
Yeah.
If you give them all the latest phone and put a flat monitor in front of their desks, that could be set in 2025, 2023, 2022.
So the sum of your thesis is?
Some of my thesis is this is an IP that struggled over time for a number of reasons. We talked about some of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's become a cultural relic. I don't say that uncharitably. Relics have value. But it's from an era that is visually and aesthetically distinct from the last time culture moved forward. There's like 2 iterations removed.
All right. I want to interject something in what you're saying. This comes from the legacy of sword and sandals movies. Outside of Gladiator, and I'm not counting Gladiator 2, when was the last time we had a lot of sword and sandals movies that were culturally accepted broadly?
300?
Yeah.
Was
And
maybe
how
the
long?
last one?
And 300 was
Hang on.
isolated.
You know what? That's. I think you're right that you're hitting on.
While you're looking it up, because it was
Yeah.
something that
Let me have a look at this. Sword and sandal.
because when you gotta understand, and I want to make this point, then chime in. Let me get these out. At the time He-Man is coming out, not only do we have Conan the Barbarian, we also have Clash of the Titans. We also have Beastmaster. We have Krull. We have, slightly different and a little bit later, we have Willow. We had a ton of this kind of, hard body. Take the hard bodies out of the comedies and the sex comedies of the time and throw them into an action adventure. And you had the sword and sandals movement of the 80s that He-Man was a part of.
Yeah, the
that has
sword and
been
sandal, sword and sorcery genre.
Yeah, and it's been largely lost over time.
Again, you're looking at stuff like Gladiator, right? Again, I would throw 300 into that category.
And how long ago were those? 20 years now?
Oh, Gladiator was 2000.
Yeah, okay. 26 years ago. It's a lifetime ago. It's a whole kid.
Let's see. Alexander, sort of. Again, this is not an effective list. Hang on.
Did you like me to ask Fancy?
I just need a full list.
Make your point, and then I will read the list, and then we are moving on.
Okay. Yeah, this is also, again, it's drawing, probably the closest one the last time was The Mummy with the Brendan Fraser one, which isn't really sword and sandals, but it's, adventure. So this whole, you're dealing with genres that are kind of out of popularity. You're dealing with an IP that has a fan base that is a generation that you're dealing with a fan base that is the generation of Star Wars. And I hate to break this to everybody, but Star Wars has become a Western in the sense that if Mark can attest to this, Westerns were the things that our dads watched endlessly as movies that they thought were cool and we thought sucked.
Yeah.
I actually don't have that relationship with the Western genre, but culturally that's what they were. That's what Star Wars is now to the modern, to like the young people. That's what my dad watches and it's lame. And that's where we are. This is that same kind of thing without a bunch of movies in between. And I'm also going to throw out, I'm not going to rehash the debate about the quality of the project, but this is an IP that got a Netflix adaptation when that meant something that no one liked and soured everyone on the IP. And I'm not blaming Kevin Smith entirely for the failure of the IP in this movie. I'm saying that he is definitely a contributor to where we have arrived at.
All right. I did 75 to 25. The Proto He-Man era. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The People That Time Forgot. The Lord of the Rings animated. Hawk the Slayer. The Great Sword and Sorcery Boom of 81 to 89. Excalibur, Clash of the Titans, Dragon Slayer, Conan the Barbarian, The Sword and the Sorcerer, Beastmaster, Sorceress, Deathstalker, Krull, Conquest, Fire and Ice, Conan the Destroyer, The Warrior and the Sorceress, Lady Hawk, Legend, Red Sonja, Highlander,
I would
The
not count
Barbarians,
Lady Hawk, but
Masters of the Universe 87, The Princess Bride, Willow, The Collapse 90 to 99, Beastmaster 2, Dragonheart, Kull the Conqueror, The 13th Warrior, Fantasy Returns 2000 to 2010, The Lord of the Rings trilogy, King Arthur 2004, Beowulf 2007, The Chronicles of Narnia films, Clash of the Titans 2010, The Mythology Era 2010 to 2020, Conan the Barbarian 2011, Immortals 2011, John Carter 2012, Jack the Giant Slayer 2013, Seventh Son 2014, The Last Witch Hunter 2015, Warcraft 2016,
failed.
Gods of Egypt 2016,
Failed.
King Arthur Legend of the Sword 2017, failed. The Green Knight 2021.
Weird.
That's the modern. Hang on, because this list ends hilariously and it really makes the point we're trying to make. The modern revival, The Northmen,
which we loved, but
who saw it? Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves,
which that is. Honor Among Thieves is the closest analog to this movie, and that also couldn't find an audience.
Right. Mythica, Stormbound 2024, Red Sonja from last year,
which was so bad even you could just laugh at it.
Deathstalker 2025, and the now Masters of the Universe. So we're gonna move on to the money now. But
look,
if you're wondering why this film fails to find an audience, it hasn't been a successful movie in God knows how long.
I mean, Christopher Nolan's going to try and breathe some life into this genre with The Odyssey, but
here's the thing. People are going to go because it's big money Christopher Nolan. In his last movie, he made the atomic bomb.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, this movie's getting pushed back. And
we'll get to it when we get to it. But all right. With that said, for the love of God, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right, folks, let me tell you, you can like a movie and it can be doing poorly. It can have rave reviews, but nobody saw it. That is the case with He-Man. Listen to the words, not what you think I'm saying, what I'm actually saying. I like the movie. Robert didn't hate it with all of his might, so he tells me. It's not doing well. That is not the same thing as it's bad. It's a perfectly well-made movie in a lot of ways. We talked about a lot of that. We also told you, it wasn't perfect. Here's what's wrong with it. It's just not the same as it's not doing well. It is bombing at the box office. Bombing at the box office means people are not paying to see this feature. Not that it's bad. Read a book. Now that I've said that, I'm so tired of explaining that to people. Every time they're like, it's bombing. Oh, it's bad? Yeah.
Those aren't the same things.
Words mean stuff. The budget was on.
I'm sure Scary Movie is deep fried ass, but it's doing well at the box office. That doesn't mean it's good.
People love them some deep fried ass. Let me tell you what. The budget on the north side is 200 million Marvel monies, and at the time of this recording, it's at 54.3 million. So a soft start, to say the least.
No hope. Almost no hope for that.
As of June 7th, Masters of the Universe has grossed 29.3 million in the U.S. and Canada, and 25 million in other territories for a worldwide total of 54.3 million. In the U.S. and Canada, Masters of the Universe was released alongside Scary Movie, and is projected to gross 30 to 35 million from just under 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend. The film made 11.7 million on its first day, including 4.4 million from Thursday night previews. It went on to debut 29.3 million, finishing second behind Scary Movie. At this time, there are no notes about a sequel.
So, Amazon's come out and done a little bit of damage control and has said they're kind of okay with the box office at the moment, which is obviously untrue. I mean, even for Amazon, which, let's be fair, has money to burn, if you spend $200 million on this thing, with no word on how much you spent marketing it, you don't want this. But if you're Amazon and you look at this and go, okay, He-Man can be a brand reassessment. We can get a little bit of goodwill from the people who like this. And then we can make the movie we really want to make, which is She-Ra, because everybody loves She-Ra, right? And then because we are stupid, we won't actually do She-Ra and He-Man together. We'll save that for the third movie because we're stupid. So there's where all that is. Yeah, Scary Movie open number 1, which just speaks to, the death of comedy as a concept. As we wait for Mark to come back. There's Mark.
Had to be. All right. I guess that's my cue to continue now. Scary Movie was the number 1 movie of the weekend with 54 million. Masters of the Universe debuted at number 2 with 29 million. Backrooms fell from 1 to 3. Obsession fell from 2 to 4. I want to stop here. I have now seen both of these.
Okay.
I have seen the Backrooms. I have seen Obsession. I would like to tell you about these movies.
Please.
I'm glad for myself. If I could be happy for myself for the first time in 15 years, that I had the opportunity to see Masters of the Universe the day after I saw Obsession and the week after I saw the Backrooms. Because had I not seen Masters of the Universe and I had only seen the Backrooms and then Obsession, I would have come away with the conclusion that movies are not made for me anymore and I should stop watching them. And then I saw Masters of the Universe. And I was like, oh, they're still making movies for me. That's good. Okay, there's space for all of us.
The problem is with the financial return, this might be the end of the, late boomer, early Gen X IP.
Let me get back to this. The Backrooms and Obsession are both well-made movies. They are also meant for like my kids and like people in their 20s.
That seems to be what I've heard because I haven't seen them yet, but they're aimed pretty squarely at like Gen Z or very young millennials.
I said this to somebody I was chatting with, and I said, one movie annoyed me, the other one confused me. I'll start with what confused me. The Backrooms confused me. I don't understand why people like this. That's okay. I'm allowed to not understand things, and I don't need it explained to me. I got to sit through that once with my son, and he's my son, and so he gets to fire hose me with, what liminal horror is, and the 4chan picture, and the guy that made the YouTube videos that then went on to make this movie. It excited him. It thrilled him to the bone. He couldn't wait to tell me about it when I walked out of the movie going, what the fuck did I just watch? And that's okay.
It speaks to things that don't scare you is kind of the other part of that. Like even if you were of the right age, none of the things it's talking about are things that like will reach you on the horror front. So
not even a little bit.
Obsession, I'm kind of surprised didn't reach you on the horror front because...
Let me get there. You're way ahead of me. So... Obsession's a monkey's paw movie.
Yeah.
Guy makes wish turns out horribly, everyone dies. Spoilers.
Plenty gruesome, though.
So here's the thing. Obsession, well-made movie. Erica, not thrilled with it, thought it was stupid. But I
can't imagine why.
Googly. So it's a well-made movie. It's well acted. The lead girl, who gets the wish made upon her, is phenomenal. She does her part very well. This movie was too familiar in this sense. The girl being crazy who is wished upon is a girl I have dated in some iteration over the last few years more than once. So it was a little hard to get through for me as I'm like, oh God, you remind me of So many women without being mystically wished upon and made crazy. So there's that. Phenomenal job acting, little too familiar. The most horrible thing about this was not the gruesome violence or the eerie use of space. It was the all too familiar crazy chick. Yikes.
That face across the table.
Yeah. I don't think I like Gen Z men. Now, you and I have talked a great deal about masculinity versus toxic masculinity, if such a thing even exists, and
Toxicity exists, and there are toxic men, but the consequential conflation of the two. If you want to have fun, ask the same people who whine about toxic masculinity what toxic femininity looks like, and they'll just call you a misogynist.
we had a whole long talk about this years ago when we reviewed The Boys season 3. I don't need to rehash it again. I made a song about it already. My point is that I am old. I am 50 years old, and I like a certain type of guy. It's a guy I've grown up with. It's a guy I'm familiar with. It's a guy I think still has value. I don't know if that guy exists in his 20s anymore. So I'm watching this movie, and I'm watching this pansy bumblefuck his way through this movie. And while it's relatable that he would, in a moment of insecurity and frustration, flippantly make a wish that will ultimately cost him, the road getting there and in dealing with it after, I was like, you fucking pussy. And I thought, oh God, I've turned into my father. And I was like, the thing of it is that I bet if I had brought my kids to that, or I'd watched it with a group of guys in the age range at which this was aimed, they would identify themselves in him, and they would say that I'm misjudging them and I'm being too harsh and I shouldn't call him a pussy. And maybe they're right. I have enough self-awareness and broad enough shoulders to know that sometimes I think I go a little too far in what I think people should be. And I'm really trying to change that about myself. It's a work in progress. But as a viewing experience, it was hard to get through. As much as you don't like the sex jokes and like Masters of the Universe and how much it grates on you and hits you in personal places, so does this guy. When I was watching the girl do stuff, I was having a good time with the movie. When I was watching him do stuff, I wanted to punch myself in the eyes. And when it was over, I was like, the movie critic in me thinks this is really good. The person in me that has preferences and likes and dislikes and is 50 years old now fucking hates this movie. I'm glad that we're kind of having a rebirth of the kinds of filmmakers that we had in the 70s that were operating outside the studio system. The studio system itself was flailing and didn't know what worked anymore and was just
boy's time a flat circle in that respect.
That's what I mean. Like, in terms of filmmaking, we might be experiencing another 70s. And if that's where this is going, I'm all for it. The difference between me and a lot of people is just because I don't like something or it wasn't personally appealing to me doesn't mean I don't want it to exist. I like that the backrooms exists. I like that obsession exists. I like that YouTubers are making movies now because then maybe we'll get good movies. We won't always. Not every movie made in the 70s was great either.
True.
But you have to understand how 70s movie you do. I don't mean you, but you, the audience, listening to me ramble, have to understand what it was like in the 70s. There was a lot of freedom, a lot of collaboration that created some great art and some not so great art. But it was an exciting time to be a movie fan. I'm hoping that's the beginning of where we are now. And for that reason alone, I love the backrooms and Obsession. Any thoughts?
They both beat the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Woohoo! By the way, that counts
as
as my review, because when you do this later with Alexis, I don't want to be on that show. I've said all I'm going to say about it.
Fair enough. We'll see if that comes together or not. I mean, it probably will for a triple feature of some kind, but
yeah, I told her aim for Halloween.
Yeah, throw the screen back up because we have to talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it fell from 3 to 6 in its third week.
I can go back a week if you would like.
You don't. I know what it was. You don't have to, but okay. So this is The Mandalorian and Grogu, second week.
The Backrooms was the #1 movie of the weekend. Obsession was #2, and Star Wars had fell from 1 to 3 and had a 70.1% drop.
You opened soft and you dropped 70% in your second week to be beat by two low-budget horror movies made basically by YouTubers. Star Wars is dead.
DED, dead.
And then this week, it took another 70% drop to finish behind The Amazing Digital Circus, The Last Act.
60%, Robert. It's 59.3.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the wrong one there. Okay, 60%. Yeah. Still, you dropped 70% your first week. You couldn't afford 60% this week, but at all. That movie cost around the same that Masters of the Universe did. It's around the $200 million mark. Probably more than that when you factor in advertising. I mean, Disney was publicly admitting it needed like 700 million to start being profitable. 6 to 700.
Not even close.
It's not going to get close to that. Like,
it's not going to be in the top 10.
Almost certainly not. Like, dead. You have gone out of your way to kill this thing in any number of ways for a long period of time. And for some reason, they're still going ahead with the next Star Wars movie, which, okay, I get what you're going to try here. It's another non-mainstream, non-trilogy movie. It's going to be Starfighter, where Ryan Gosling is going to be a starfighter, a starship pilot, an old, slightly gruff, awkward pilot mentoring a young Force user in hiding. Boy, where have I seen this before?
Yeah, Star Wars.
When that one bombs, maybe someone will start to figure out that this is dead, wrecked, gone, burned, earth salted.
If you need another analogy, it is a dead parrot. It is no more.
So that's the state of Star Wars.
It ceases to be. I can keep going if you want.
No, I'm okay with that. We can keep going with the.
Hang on, I want to address this on screen.
Okay.
Good friend of the show, best friend of the show, Neil Blackwood says, the Knicks-Hausen? The Knicks-Hausen are playing. Yes, I have it on. It's currently 89-86. I had money, but one of my legs broke already. But I have the Knicks. I have the Knicks in 4. At this point, I have no.
The Knicks are going to just sweep it?
Yeah. But this is not a sports show. But yes, we're well aware. Thank you, Neil. You're a good boy.
Look, Danhausen cursed the other team. It's going to be fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, moving on with this. Michael dropped from 4 to 7. Michael, a profitable movie. The Breadwinner dropped from 5 to 8.
Not a profitable movie.
Not a profitable movie. Pressure dropped from 7 to 9, and The Devil Wears Prada 2 dropped from 6 to 10. Train Spotting, the 30th anniversary, debuted at 19.
The world's depressing enough. I didn't need to go see Train Spotting again.
Debuted at 20. Jinsei debuted at 27, Underland 29, Chum 33. That was the weekend. That was worldwide.
Neil wants 10 more He-Man movies, and I think he's not going to get them.
Well, the worldwide box office is such a fucking disaster. Now, right now, the Star Wars is in 7th place with $293 million.
So the big news is the Super Mario Galaxy movie barely crawled its way over the $1 billion mark. So good for them. It's not a movie, but
yeah, 18 TikToks in a trench coat. Michael is at 888 worldwide. The #2 movie in the world, Project Hail Mary, is at 680. The Devil Wears Prada.
There's $200 million drops between 1, 2, and 3.
Look, you can piss and moan and tell girls are bad. But The Devil Wears Prada 2 is making money. People are enjoying it. It's quietly doing well.
I have never said girls are bad. That's your casual misogyny, not mine.
Okay. But I accepted that the devil. I just didn't want to review it with you, or go see it. But the Devil
I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see it, but look, the childless 40-year-old women watched that when they were in their early 20s and thought it was aspirational, and now we're revisiting it.
Pegasus 3 is at 5 with 656. Hoppers, and then another $300 million drop.
Yeah.
Hoppers is at 372, which is above The Mandalorian, which is at
Which, dude, The
293.
Mandalorian isn't going to beat Hoppers.
Wuthering Heights still since February in the top 10 with 241. Blades of the Guardians 215 is in the top 10, and the Backrooms coming in at number 10 and 11 in the King of the Ring tournament. The Backrooms,
Backrooms and Obsession both beat Scream 7.
Yeah. So,
Mark, have you put yourself through The Bride yet? Because I told you it streams now.
yeah, no, I haven't had time to watch it yet. I've been doing other stuff.
When you're feeling bad about yourself, put that on. You'll feel worse.
I have to by the end of the year. So Mortal Kombat 2 hasn't beaten the drama yet.
Nor will it.
Um,
Let's go down to find Masters of the Universe just for funsies.
Currently between Mercy and Mercy from January and Shelter at 54,439,000.
It's below. It's below Crime 101 and Hamnet.
And the Bone Temple.
Yeah. It's a minor miracle. It's above Iron Lung.
Oh, there it is. Number 54, The Bride, between Stray Kids at 23 million and Hokum at 23 million.
Hokum's a pretty decent little horror movie, so.
Nobody went to go see You, Me, in Tuscany.
I can't imagine people deciding not to go watch Halle Bailey after her acting in the Little Mermaid. Mark,
what a surprise!
like her voice was the selling point there, not her acting. Now go watch her be infatuated with another. Who was that movie for?
All right. So He-Man and the Masters of the Universe has to deal with a murderer's row of movies this month.
This thing is not going anywhere.
You know, again, if word of mouth gets out on this, it might have some chance of making a decent amount of money. But, you know, is it going to be profitable? No. But this is what I wanted to talk about. Amazon is not a theatrical exhibition studio.
True.
Amazon is a company that ships items to people.
Amazon is a company that sells ad space.
So Amazon can afford to put a movie in the theater, have it not make money, and continue to make more movies.
Oh, I meant to bring that up. I missed it I forgot to bring it up in my review, but that whole 20-minute segment before we get back to Eternia, you had to have died.
Beast gets hit by an Amazon truck?
By the Prime truck, yeah.
I laughed my ass off at that.
I was just like that. You had to have died inside at that.
No, I fucking laughed at it because I was like, ha! It's Amazon. I hope that's the only product placement. Like later on, fucking Man at Arms isn't eating a fucking, drinking a Pepsi.
Look, they did not have to airlift in via drone someone's Amazon gift card as payment for them running through the streets on a screen.
Poor Ice Cube. My point is, I
will never feel bad for Ice Cube ever.
Look, an Amazon truck hits a gorilla monkey monster. And we're done now, and that's the last we're going to do of this or see of it. Fine, that is how you do comedy.
Not a slow motion. Against the Bud Light truck while a Transformer goes through it.
Yeah, really. Anyway, Amazon can afford to make more He-Man movies. Amazon bought MGM Studio, did the what do we have now thing, and they rescued this movie out of development hell because this has been about 10 years in the making and several iterations. They're gonna at least try this one more time.
Yeah, I think I meant this when you went.
At this point, protecting the brand is more important than making money on the movie.
Human monies, even.
All of the monies.
So I mentioned this, I think, when you went to pee. Amazon has said they're kind of okay with the box office return, which is obviously not true, but I don't think it will deter their plans. Like, they spent $200 million on this. They didn't want the result they're getting. I think that's a fair assessment. Right. But I don't know that it's going to be a big enough bomb for them to abandon future plans. So my hunch if they get good word of mouth and they use this as like, okay, this is an investment, we're going to lose money on it, but it's going to rebuild faith in the IP,
Right.
then we can do a She-Ra movie. Then we can do a third movie where the two get together.
Here's the thing I'll tell you. For the last 6 months to a year now, I have seen movies not do well in theaters and then see an announcement on like MovieWeb or some of these other blogs. It's been greenlit for a sequel. That tells me theatrical exhibition ain't what it used to be, ain't what it used to be, ain't what it used to be. And again, Amazon MGM is not a movie studio. But one of the products that you can get from Amazon with your books and your kitchenwares and your pants is movies.
You're everything. You can buy anything on Amazon.
So I think you're right. I think they're gonna do like a solo She-Ra movie, and then they'll bring the
Mash
two of them
them
together.
together.
Right. And I will go on a limb. We don't have to do what we always do with this. Oh, Mark's making a prediction. Let's everyone kick him repeatedly for decades on end because I had the audacity to go out on a limb and make a prediction, you fucks. Sorry.
You said Finn Balor was going to be the next John Cena, Mark.
I've said a lot of things. None of you make mistakes. You're all perfect angels. I understand.
Dude, you're welcome to put. It's not like you've never thrown stuff I've said wrong back at me. But I didn't pick James Toney to beat Randy Couture in an MMA fight.
At least he tried. Anyway.
That's almost. I mean, at least you didn't pick Francis Ngannou to beat Anthony Joshua in a boxing match.
Yeah, I fucking have learned. Anyway, I do think that
I'm not okay. Hang on, let me address Neil real fast because I'm not insulting Finn Balor. I'm really not. Like Balor's fine.
This is about me and my weird predictions.
Mark was on record.
I said the guy that was going to stand out in the Shield was Dean Ambrose. It turned out to be Roman Reigns. Like,
well, I mean, in fairness, if we're talking about like which character stood out, it was Dean, but Vince hated him.
Yeah.
Mark just said that John Cena's winding down. This is about 8 years before Cena would actually retire because wrestling. But he said, I think Finn Balor is going to be the next John Cena because the little kids love him. And we all looked at Mark and went, you're crazy. And he said, no, you will see. We watched as he did the Rainbow Club. And then he got hurt. And then he did another. Then he did the.
You're picking at me for things that were largely out of my control and affected
I'm aware.
my prediction. Like
I'm aware
him
of this,
winning
but
the title and then immediately getting injured like fucking Edge. We're getting off track. My point is,
if you wanted to make a prediction.
I think by the time we get to He-Man and She-Ra and the Masters of the Universe or whatever the fuck they're going to call this, I actually think that movie makes money. I think if they keep the She-Ra budget reasonable, I think that'll end up making a profit because She-Ra actually has there have been much more touches to She-Ra more recently, and it has a much more rabid fan base, what I was saying before, than He-Man does.
The Alphabet Rainbow Brigade latched onto She-Ra, so it's in its corners, it has a pretty serious fan base.
So with that, I think She-Ra brings more girls to the theater. I think it makes money, and then I think they put the two of them together, and voila, we have I think we're gonna have a situation because if you compare this to say like the MonsterVerse movies, remember those movies also don't make money for a while.
Actually, hang on. The first Godzilla makes a lot of money. It does very well for itself for what its budget was.
Not like they were expecting.
No, it's not $1 billion, but
right. That's my point. Like Godzilla King of the Monsters, King Kong Skull Island, they're either like rangy unprofitable, give or take $1 million or $2 million. It isn't until we get to Godzilla versus Kong that we actually make the kind of money that they were wanting to.
That doesn't actually make a lot of money because it was day and date on HBO Max because that was in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, well, it's that too. My point is like the MonsterVerse movies took a while to really ramp up financially. You know what also took a while to ramp up financially? Marvel. The Iron Man movies do okay, but Hulk is not a moneymaker. Thor's not a moneymaker, neither is Captain America. And then the Avengers made $1 billion.
Both Cap and Thor were profitable, just smaller.
But that's my point. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is
Well, in fairness, if Iron Man had done this on a $200 million budget, we don't have the MCU and the world's a better place.
Right, but also put out by Paramount at the time versus
Instead of Amazon, which this is a rounding error.
Versus part of the company currently running the United States. It's not an apples to apples comparison.
I'm aware, but again, like $200 million is a rounding error for Amazon. I get it. Like
right. So I do think we're going to get another one of these. In any case, what we're starting to get to
probably.
Was, we are
and
now
I'm probably going to hate the next one because that's the movie they really wanted to make. So that'll do that will make all the mistakes this one avoided.
So next week we have Disclosure Day, which we're going to review.
Darn right.
And that's about the only thing coming out in the theater that's worth a damn on the day of the 12th. Everything else is either a streaming movie or an indie. How much Disclosure Day cuts into Masters of the Universe? I don't know if at all.
Master. Here's the thing: like Master of the Universe doesn't need anything to cut into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Disclosure Day is going to do good numbers because it's a big Steven Spielberg movie.
But again, people are looking. It's the summer. Families are looking to do stuff with the kids. He-Man has good word of mouth despite the sex jokes. I don't think it's going to have a tremendous. I actually think it's going to do pretty decently in its second week. Do I think it's going to make astronomical amounts of money? No, I just don't think it's going to have a Mandalorian and Grogu second week.
I will agree. I don't think it drops 70%.
After that is Toy Story, and that's going to be a problem for it.
Minions is not too long after that.
My daughter doesn't want. Take two. My daughter wants to see the death of Robin Hood. She saw the trailer for it. She was like, "Oh, take me to see that." Comes out the same day as Toy Story 5. And then we have Supergirl.
Why are we deconstructing Robin Hood again, which hasn't actually been reconstructed since before Kevin Costner's movie?
So Supergirl looks like it's going to tank horribly.
Why is anyone surprised at this? I have to ask. Neil with the line of the night in F Toy Story. Yeah, buddy, you should see what we did to 4. Like Mark's gonna have to do a song about what we said about Toy Story 4. That review was just
yeah, that was a lot of curb stomping. But I just wanted to talk about
it'll be a gangster rap that is about curb stomping.
So my son asked me on the way to the theater, what is the story with Supergirl? And I kind of explained to him he asked, is she always like a drunk party girl? And I'm like, no, that is one book that portrayed her that way. And that's because they're basing the movie on.
It's also because James Gunn can't write protagonists that aren't Star-Lord in some capacity.
Well, there's so many different versions of Supergirl. There's pre-crisis Supergirl. There's New 52 Supergirl.
And that's true. And again, which one did he decide to go with? The one he could turn into Star-Lord.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like there were so many different ways to have gone about Supergirl in so many different books. You went with specifically Tom King's book. And we did a review on it. I don't know if you've seen it, but Jesse, Alexis, and I talked about it. It's not a bad book. It's an odd choice to adapt into a movie first time out. This was already kind of a leap with going from Superman to Supergirl with nothing else in between. Because again, there has been no other DC James Gunn movie since Superman, and that struggled. We talked about it endlessly.
As we talked about it endlessly because people were disingenuous and stupid about what we said about it. Yeah, I hated the movie. Fair enough. Other people liked it. Again, fair enough. But when we said this thing underperformed financially, everybody was just too stupid to understand how math works.
So, Supergirl has her fans. She would have to have the amount of books that she's had. I'm not sure if that's the next one. I understand James Gunn's telling this like long, stupid story. Like he thinks, because he thinks he's Kevin Feige and all. But
for some reason, he thinks he's in a safe position as Warner Brothers is about to be sold.
Yeah. So I don't agree with his choice to make the second movie in this series of movies Supergirl. And a Supergirl story that's so fucking isolated from everything else that's going on. So I don't know. But I'm not alone in. I'll go see the movie. I'll probably end up liking it because I know what I'm like. But There's a group of guys out there that don't like some of the things Millie Alcock has said in the press.
Well, hang on. If we want to address that very briefly, it goes.
Mhm.
This is a very simple thing. They're looking at the early projection numbers, and it's not good, right? Like their early projections that can change. We're still a month out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could change. But they're looking at the early projection numbers and going, "Oh, that's not good." So what do? They grab the lead actress and go say the thing. She goes, "But I don't want to say the thing." And they point to her contract. Say, "It's in your contract. Say the thing." And then she sighs and goes out on stage with a gun pointed at her and says, "It's the fault of the Christian dads."
Yeah.
Because this is what we do when our movie's about to underperform. We start the blame early. And I almost feel bad for her because it's very clearly like she doesn't, I would bet money she doesn't actually think this. This is just what she's been told to say because...
That's incredible. You would think after the whole Rachel Zegler thing, no, they would stop doing stuff like this. But it's like, no, let's create another Rachel Zegler situation. Because bad press is, good press kind of a thing. And the poor actress is like, I have to live in the Rachel Zegler skin suit you're giving me. No, thank you.
Yeah. It's not going to do well. It's just not. It's not tracking well.
It's the wrong character, the wrong book, the wrong actress, because I have nothing against the actress. Not lead girl material, in my opinion. So nothing about this movie is particularly appealing to a variety of people who might have seen this movie.
Then you release trailers, and I'm careful about judging some of this stuff, but they're cut together so badly. And some of the number of like, hey, watch this cool action scene, and I watch it, and it doesn't look cool. It looks terrible. And I'm not alone in this. Like the trailer reactions to this movie have not been good for whatever value that metric has.
So back to will Masters of the Universe pick up some steam over the course of June?
Probably not.
And like I said, by the time in 2 weeks, we have Toy Story. And as much as we're going to bitch and complain about it, I'm sure, as much as we bitched and complained about Toy Story 4, people have short memories. People have short memories. They don't fucking care. So they'll go see the Toy Story movie because I have so much to say about that movie when we get to it. That by that point, I think Masters of the Universe will have lost a lot of people that might have, like, again, if you go to the theater and you look at the posters and you go, which one should we see, kids? 9 out of 10 of them are going to say Toy Story, not Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
And I think all of the old dads already saw it.
The theater I saw it in this morning, empty. Now, granted, first showing on a Monday, but it's summer. That doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Yeah. All right. Let's get her done here and hopefully this doesn't fuck up my computer again, as we do the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Alrighty. Running a little slow here. Boy.
Yeah, well, see if you can pull it out.
Dirt.
Come on, man. Don't be like that.
Oh, what? All right. So far, so good. We are at a 67 on the tomato meter and an 88 on the fan meter.
That's about right.
Top critics drops it to 53.
Look, I have my complaints about this movie, but again, if you do the pass-fail, I do think this is a fairly easy pass.
Verified and all audience are tied at 88. The AI writes, by the power of Grayskull and with a little help from its self-deprecating script and spirited cast, Masters of the Universe is a delightful adventure that finds the humanity in He-Man. All right. here's what I'll tell you, because I had to do the job and I couldn't say what I wanted to say, so you said it. But I will tell you this: I don't think a lot of critics got this, and I think a lot of critics like this is beneath them. Like that's it. That's all it is. It's beneath them. Like, oh, this is yet another thing of like this is old man stuff, and they don't want to be a part of it. It's
I'd
also
rather watch old woman stuff.
it's it's all muscly men and space fantasy and stuff. A lot of critics out there that are just turn their nose up at it. So instead of giving the movie a fair review, they inject too much of their personal opinion in. It's not what they want, so it's a bad movie. That said, Allison Wilmore of New York Magazine Vulture, Masters of the Universe belongs to no one, a project engineered at enormous cost from the needs of IP.
This doesn't. That's the problem. Like, this doesn't actually belong to no one. This belongs to the audience it's aimed at. There's just not a big audience for it, it turns out.
Nick Johnston of Voluland, Knight ostensibly wants us to walk away with the lesson that Adam's good-hearted nature is the real source of strength, yet the movie constantly belittles this aspect of his character, even after he's completed his labor and saved the world. I'm wondering if his degree in feminist studies got him his job at Voluland.
I'd assume.
Yeah.
He saw the Daryl character and went, "Hey, that's me," and then everyone derides the Daryl character, and he's going, "I can't do this."
Chantilly lace and a purty face. Candace McMillan of Seattle Refined. Oscillating between an in-on-the-joke kitsch and gravelly voice sincerity, Masters doesn't do either part enough to draw viewers to its rock-hard bosom. It's most certainly cannot revive a He-Man from the dusty shelves of your parents' attic.
Again, I don't think this is going to really revive the IP. I think they're trying to lay groundwork to do so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think as long as people didn't hate this first movie, there's room to make more of these and see what happens next.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Harris of 401 Mania. Travis Knight imbues the film with a charming sense of energy, fun, and whimsy, capturing what made the lore and mythology of Eternia so captivating to begin with.
Yeah, you and Jeff are in lockstep on this one.
Perry Nemiroff of Perry Nemiroff was totally swept away by the super vibrant, weird, and gleeful... It's not really weird, lady. And gleeful romp. It's downright ridiculous, but ridiculous works when the cast and crew wholly get the kind of movie they're making and enthusiastic about going all out to bring it to life. Like, I don't remember Eternia being weird, but it's also been so long since I've watched the cartoon, and I'm not a child anymore. I don't know.
Reality is, like, if it's weirder than Marvel to most people, it's weird these days. Like, that's just the benchmark.
People have no imagination.
I am very aware of the death of imagination. We've outsourced it to AI and screens.
AI walking around in women's clothing. Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer.
Early Gen AI masquerading as a human being.
This new movie is very well cast and looks great, but plus has a lot of heart and a valuable lesson, but it just never soars. Still a good time, though, especially for fans of the original animated series. Here's hoping for a better sequel.
Again, I think this is one of those instances where the AI Grace Randolph speaks for the masses.
I have Princess of the Universe stuck in my head right now.
Do you?
Mark Kermode of Kermode and Mayo's Take. It is essentially a load of colorful nonsense.
My man, I sat through Shang-Chi. That's a load of colorful nonsense.
There's no 4 or 5, remember? It's Endgame and then Doomsday.
Maybe. We'll see.
Tessa Smith of Mama's Geeky. Jared Leto and Alison Brie absolutely rule a spectacular villain side in Masters of the Universe, but weak writing holds the rest of it back.
I understand the point there, and really it's the length of this movie that does it in. Like,
yeah.
If this is 30 minutes shorter, we're having a much different conversation.
Let's see. Where are all your wives? Did no black women see this movie?
Well, why would they? There's no black women on the screen, Mark.
Fair enough. Amy Nicholson of Los
I was
Angeles
reliably
Times.
informed that you must represent everyone and their unique demographics on screen at all time, and this is how you draw people to a movie.
I was waiting for someone to text me that this movie is woke because Triclops was not white.
Who cares?
As not me. As Skeletor, Jared Leto's grumbling, Brit-inflected baritone is this unrecognizable concoction of trilled R's and plummy vowels, and the best performance he's done in years. Well, that's true.
I hate Jared Leto, so I'm biased.
You know, can I tell you something?
Sure.
Jared Leto is not a bad actor. He's just not.
No,
a
he's
leading,
not.
He's just not a leading man. I watched for Thursday the Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, no one should have put him in leading man roles. He should have been supporting character all the way.
He does a great acting job in that. He earned the Oscar that he won. That's fine and dandy. It's like Jake Gyllenhaal, perfectly serviceable actor. Stop trying to make him a lead. And in case of Jared Leto, just cast him less overall.
Here we go. The future Xmas is Robert Winfrey, Carla Hay of Culture Mix. This version of Masters of the Universe has enough goofy, self-aware comedy to please existing fans and win over new fans of this fantasy action franchise, which is deliberately campy. Nicholas Galitzine leads the cast with appealing charisma. Ma'am,
You
are
outsourced this.
you are having ChatGPT write your fucking reviews now.
It's not often I think what she did was AI, was like LLM generated. That one feels like it was.
Lindsay Barr of the Associated Press. The movie might have worked better if it had just gone full Saturday morning cartoon with fewer self-deprecating jokes.
Maybe.
But that would have required more conviction about what everyone was making fun of in the first place.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment there. Again, there's a bit too much bathos and insecurity in the writing in places for my personal taste.
British Robert Winfrey, Robbie Collin of Daily Telegraph. The new He-Man film, Master of the Universe, might be utterly awful, but it's in its defense. At least it seems to know it.
No, this is not utterly awful. I've seen awful movies. This isn't one of them.
And we'll end with Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. A blast of nostalgic joy from start to finish.
As someone who, is not a fan of nostalgia, I think he's probably accurate.
Well, that is our review of Masters of the Universe. Next week is Disclosure Day. Yesterday, myself and Jesse reviewed the second volume of The Incredible Hercules. We will be taking
Hercules.
Hercules. We'll be taking a break from that character.
Thankfully.
I think the next couple of books we're going to do, the next source material is Savage Hawkman from the New 52. The entirety of that run.
New 52.
And then the Mike Straczynski run on Thor, and then that's all. So Jesse has now reshaped his calendar to where, like, I get a month, Unspoken Issues get a month, I get a month. So the month of June, he's putting up the Drax stuff and Supergirl. We did Drax in February, and I told him, like, well, if you're going to do that, then I don't want to keep recording an endless amount of shows. You're going to have stuff in the can that's, not going to come out until fucking December of 2027 at the rate we're going. So I'm going to put up a couple of more books with him, and then we're going to take a break from source material for a while. So what that means to all of you who watch the W2M network is if you catch the live show after the Mike Straczynski run on Thor, we're not going to have a source material live. However, all of the shows we recorded this year, cut up into bite-sized bits, will appear on the source material audio podcast format every other month. So that's what's going on there. Thursday is our first entry into Pride Month. We're only doing 2 shows this year because Triple H doesn't work Tuesdays.
Because Pride is a played-out concept.
Now, I needed the space for other stuff like the newsroom and whatever else, and I don't want to work Tuesdays, Wednesdays anymore, or every Sunday. So we're only doing 2 shows. This Thursday is Dallas Buyers Club, Cassandro, and Solo. The connection being trans drag characters, stuff like that. I've never seen Dallas. I've already seen Dallas Buyers Club, but I hadn't seen Dallas Buyers Club until this past weekend. Excellent movie. Can't wait to talk about it with Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Great
movie.
Watched Solo this afternoon. It was a winner at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Which means nothing.
It was a very small movie, interesting drama. Europeans make their movies a very particular way, very not American way. But
It's impossible to unsee once you see how they do it.
yeah, I'm starting to see it now. My eyes now see behind the code of the European Matrix.
Yep.
And I gotta watch Cassandra still. Like I said, Monday is Disclosure Day, and then a week from Thursday is the Newsroom seasons 2 and 3 because 3 wasn't a full season. Robert, give your plugs while I see if the Knicks in the next 4 minutes score 8 points consecutively and beat the Spurs.
Oh, they're gonna lose?
They might. They're currently losing 108 to 100.
I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over on 411mania.com. That was WWE SmackDown on Friday, which was clawed its way to average. Not great. That particular episode, Mark, barely scraped towards half of its 3-hour runtime actually being wrestling. Because there were 2 fatal 4-way matches that each went about 15 minutes.
They're gearing up for the King of the Ring at Night of Champions, right?
Yeah. So there was that. I had to watch Raquel Rodriguez go over JC Jane and a few other more interesting characters. Then I had to watch who was the men's winner? Dominic Mysterio, who's going to beat Oba Femi in 2 weeks.
Oh, good.
Brock's going to kill Oba. Is kind of how that's going to work and cost him that match. So be prepared for that because Oba should just squash Dom in like 2 seconds.
Night of Champions is in Saudi Arabia, right?
I don't know.
Okay, Robert.
It's not all. If I'm not paid to cover it, I don't care that much about pro wrestling.
Okay.
I know that the winner of these tournaments get title shots at SummerSlam. That's what I know.
Okay.
So I would assume Javon Evans beat Seth Rollins earlier today. Well, Seth Rollins and what's his nuts? The guy he actually pinned. Was that Ricky? I think it was Ricky Saints. So that's all shaping up. At least we're not getting another Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins match.
I saw the clip of Ricky Saints getting slapped, and it was like, Javal or whatever his name is from Revenge of the Nerds. He fucking like slapped like, oh, and like fell over.
When Trick backhanded him the other week.
Yeah.
So this week on SmackDown, Gunther will reveal the stipulation for his rematch with WWE Champion Cody Rhodes because there's only 2 ways. There's only 2 stories they tell with Cody because they're lazy bookers. He's either dealing with like Roman. It's WrestleMania season and the office doesn't like him all of a sudden, so TKO wants someone other than Cody as champion. Or TKO likes Cody Rhodes. He's the golden boy, and he gets a couple of dirty wins over heels who then get to gripe endlessly about being robbed and set up their own stipulations, which they then lose at. They did the same damn thing with Drew. They did the same damn thing with Kevin Owens. And frankly, they did the same damn thing with Randy Orton. How lazy are you people over there?
Maybe they borrowed the Ratner Tron 5000 and then reprogrammed it to make a wrestling booking.
I have watching the last 2 months of SmackDown, I have no problem believing they have started leaning on large language models to generate their stories for them. Just doing the same shit over and over and over again. So tune in for SmackDown coverage. There is no UFC event on Saturday. Instead, on Sunday, we will have UFC Freedom 250 live from the White House lawn.
I'm keeping my kids overnight for that.
They're going to hate you for that.
Friction raises resilient children.
You're going to make your poor daughter have to watch Cyril Gahn and Alex Pereira.
Oh, she'll be on her phone or asleep.
Your son is going to watch Ilya Taporia kill Justin Gagey.
Well, I mean, we both we both have bloodlust, so that's good.
Yeah, if you want a full preview if you want a review of last week's card, which was an okay night of warehouse fights, and a preview of UFC Freedom 250. Listen to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast over on the 411 Wrestling and Entertainment YouTube channel. I have a full preview of the upcoming card. The saving grace for the White House card is it's only 7 fights long, which of course they will still stretch out to a 6-hour broadcast.
1 fight per hour.
In all seriousness, I think they're looking at like 4.5 hours to 5, somewhere in that range, which is there's an impressive amount of just stretching time on the. Like, I almost have to applaud how impossibly greedy and miserable those people must be to just grind out. Here's a 20-second ad break. Here's a 20-second ad break. Here's a 20-second ad break. Here's the desk. You can listen to Anthony Smith slur his way through words. Here's another series of ad breaks. And hey, maybe there's a fight once in a while. Anyway, so Sunday I will have that coverage. And then Sunday evening / Monday morning, depending on exactly when, we will be doing the podcast again to review all that and to preview the upcoming card, which is iffy. Got an okay main event. We're back in the warehouse for Kyoji Horiguchi and Manel Kopp. So that'll be a thing. And yeah, next week, Disclosure Day, because Spielberg finally made another movie. We're all happy about that.
All right. For Robert Winfrey, I have the power. Be well, be safe, and behave.